Welcome to Career Pod, your Audible career fair podcast. I'm your host, Dana Francis. This week on the show, we explore the career path of being a personal fitness trainer. There are so many awesome takeaways in this episode, but I think the one that really stands out for me is the importance of your physical health and how it correlates to your mental health. As someone that has struggled with depression pretty much their entire life, I know fitness is not a fix-all band-aid for better mental health, but I can honestly say for me, it just helps. And that brings us to another really good point that comes up in the episode is that, you know what may be good for me, it's not necessarily good for you. We're all different, unique individuals that have different wants, different needs, different limitations. I know one of the things I personally struggle with, and I kind of feel like it's a universal problem, is not having enough hours in the day. And Michaela can completely relate to that. On her Facebook page, she has these, they're called 5-Minute Fridays, where she kind of outlines a mini workout for you in 5 minutes or less. You might also notice something new in this episode. From here on in, I'm going to start having a CanCon break. For anyone that's not from Canada, CanCon is basically just short form for Canadian content. As a proud Canadian podcaster, I want to be as supportive as possible to my fellow podcasters because you know what? It's a lot of work to produce a show and often unpaid. Plus, it gives you, the listener, a chance to diversify your interests. Without further ado, let's start. So today we're joined by Michaela Jessiman from Rural Fitness and Life Captured Photography. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for asking me. It's awesome.
Perfect timing for us because we're up here for farming. So
yeah,
it's like, oh, we have to have like a farming centered episode because I feel it's so integral to what we do for a living. So.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you started your business and what got you into this? Or actually, sorry, can we backtrack a little bit?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what you do?
Yes, yeah, for sure. So I am a personal trainer in a small town coming from an ag community. So I kind of was trying to think of ideas to put that all together. I started out with group fitness classes and it just kind of led on from there. And I decided that I wanted to go into personal training. And yeah, so I personal train from my home out of the garage that we so nicely converted into a gym. And thank you to my husband for that. Took a little convincing, but not too bad. So yeah, I have people come to my house and we train, and that is the majority of what I do.
And then you also have are you still doing the photography quite a bit, or is it kind of focusing more onto the fitness side of things?
Yes, so I
now?
do. Yeah, photography is, I would still consider it my side gig, hobby gig, expensive hobby.
Side hustle.
But I still have a lot of fun doing it, so I can't quite give it up yet. But yeah, no, I do both.
What kind of training do you need to be a personal trainer then?
Personal training, it's very flexible kind of in a way. It can go from, you could go to university for 4 to 6 years and get training that way. Nowadays, there's lots of online training that you can do, and depending on how fast you learn or how fast you want to take the course, if you've got other life priorities, you can do it anywhere from a month to a year, and you could have your personal training certificate. And then, of course, afterwards, there's always continuing education that you have to keep up with. So it's a constant learning to get into it. Yeah.
What were some of the things that attracted you to personal training?
Personal training. Well, I think that it all started with being an athlete growing up in a small town. That's kind of, if you're not in sports, there's not a lot else for you to do unless you're getting into some trouble on weekends. So the majority of my weekends growing up were spent either in a gym at the volleyball court or in the summer playing on the ball diamonds. So that, I think, treating your body in a certain way and so that it can do things for you, not necessarily with what you look like, but it's awesome to be able to get the hit that makes you get the home run or the other players in so that you can win the game. So stuff like that growing up, I think, and just athleticism in general is a huge part of why I love working out and personal training. So I've always worked out myself, I would say, more so when I got into more of an after school, like university and stuff like that. Playing for a volleyball team, there was an immense amount of training that we had to do. So why did I get into personal training? I guess just because growing up an athlete, working out in different aspects of my life it's always something that I've had a personal interest in, and then it kind of turned into, well, I can also help others. People were asking me about my personal experience because after university, it was like, oh yeah, you're going to gain the freshman 15. And I was like, no, I'm not. And then I went above and beyond that in what I gained. And then I lost weight. And then from there, I was like, holy crap, if I can do this, and this is a really good feeling that I accomplished something on my own doing, then I could give that feeling to other people. And if I can get other people feeling that way, it feels good to let other people share in that experience.
And I think it's so important here because, I mean, we're in Lucky Lake, Saskatchewan, which is it a village or is it like
I think
a
we're
hamlet or a town? I don't know. There's like so few people here that
middle of nowhere.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's really hard because a lot of, the big cities, they have these resources. They have the pools and the gyms and all sorts of classes all over the place. Whereas when you come to small town Saskatchewan, there's what's available in your community is basically the people in your community. So,
yeah.
I mean, without having a fitness program here, without you here, I don't think there would be anything.
Yeah. Like I said, we have sports, and that I think is what we in a small town do. If you do anything with working out, it's kind of in that aspect is what we go for. Other than that, yeah, there's not usually. There's some like rec places in the surrounding communities that have small gyms, and I even know my mom growing up, she tried to have like a small nonprofit gym in Beachy, and it was like it's hard to keep stuff like that going without a lot of community input into it. Yeah, it's not like you can pay your $10 a month and go to any box gym in the city. It takes a little bit more effort to do that.
Yeah, especially in a farming community. I think it's just so important because the way we kind of work as farmers is that there's two really big seasons. There's seeding and there's harvest. And those are times that people don't really take the time. Like we're very, very physically active, but at the same time, if you're not taking care of yourself, like if you throw out your back during seeding season, holy hell, you are so screwed.
You don't have time for that.
No. You like just grab a cane, you're like, ow, ow.
Exactly.
Ow. Like,
and I think, farmers, I think, have been doing that for years. And it's almost like a badge of honor. My dad, he had these injuries and he worked his ass off for however long and now he can barely move. Like that's where it seems to be going in a lot of cases. But
it's like, oh, why is Grandpa laying on the ground? Oh no, Grandpa, what'd you do?
Yeah, these are not things that we should be working through.
No, and it's really hard because you're just. We were out burning flax, and there's just so many repetitive motions. Like for us, it was we were leaning over the quad to like light all this stuff on fire, and at the end of the day, I was like, oh dear, I need to start getting physically off the quad because I am doing some nasty things to this one leg right now. My butt really hurts.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is we're so busy that we forget how hard our bodies are working. So, and we've not been properly taught how to move sometimes in the things that we're doing. So lots of times it's low back issues or back issues. I think back issues are extremely common within the farming community because there's a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of repetitive motions, like you were saying. So it's hard if you don't know the proper ways or if it's not a habit that you've created to lift properly, it happens just like that. And then once you have a back issue, it's forever. It's hard for that to completely go away.
I've come so close to almost pulling or throwing out my back, and every single time I'm like, oh, I just know because my dad throws his back out about once a year now. So it's like once you do it, once you've gone past that point, it's really hard to come back. And
absolutely. And I think the other thing from back issues too in a small town, like going back to the rural community, is we don't have chiropractors in every community. We have massage therapists around here, which we're lucky to have, but sometimes in the busy season, your back starts to hurt, but you don't have the time to take 3 to 4 hours just to go to the next place over to get a treatment of we don't have time for that. So the problems kind of just keep escalating because it's there, but we also don't have the time to take care of it once it is there.
Mm-hmm. And I really like that I've been slowly making my way through your 5-minute, what is it, 5-minute Fridays?
5-minute Friday, yeah.
I've been chasing a toddler around and I've been like sitting on my cell phone watching, these are nice stretches to do. So it's kind of, I mean, for a lot of us, 5 minutes is sometimes, but really it is. If you need to take 5 minutes out of your day to take care of yourself. So
well, and I know, and that's if people say they don't have 5 minutes, I think let's take a look at our priorities, because I always say this is how I kind of bring it into perspective for people is farmers. If you go look at some of the most successful farmers and their machinery and how well they're taking care of it, is they forget that they themselves are a piece of like their machinery too, that they can look at it that way. And if they're going to take that good care of their tractor, why are you not taking that good care of yourself? Mm-hmm. Because most farmers it's just them, or they have a child or like a brother that helps them on the farm, or whatever family they have. Or there is help, but it's kind of hard to find around these parts too, is good help. So if you're not good, then is your farm still running, and can you afford that downtime, right?
I guess you're kind of like the only one around here, but would you say there's much competition for work? Like if somebody else wanted to start up a business like this in another rural community, mm-hmm. and I'm sorry, every single time I say rural, it's like, say rural. It fast. Say it fast 3 times. Rural.
I know, I
swear
have a
English
niece
is my
nephew.
first language.
And they have a niece and nephew, and they were just like, what's rural fitness? Slow down a little bit.
Is there much competition for...
Competition, I think it's maybe not a direct competition of, say, necessarily a different business or a different person. But I mean, with social media and Pinterest and Facebook, there's always, and online training, there's always ways that people can get training that's besides me, or mm-hmm. I mean, there's lots of ways people can get into fitness or a workout routine that doesn't include me, which is good. I don't go for it.
I think sometimes it's just when you have someone that's sitting there and cheering you on, like you can watch things online, like I can watch your videos online and be like, oh, okay, that's a great way to do a stretch, and that's the proper form. But at the same time, I think, I don't know, I need the motivation. I need someone kind of like cracking the whip.
Totally.
Run faster.
Yeah. And I do find that is where I think I come into play a lot of the time is everyone knows what they should be doing. It's a matter of, are we doing what we know we should be doing? And I'm the same way with lots of things in my life too. But so if we have somebody there for that accountability, it makes a big difference. And that's what I have clients that come and they say, well, I have my scheduled appointment with you, so I have to show up. So it's just like scheduling a doctor appointment or a dentist appointment. It's just part of their week, and they have to come and they do it.
One of my questions is always what the job forecast is going to look like in the future. But at the same time, I feel like this is something that's never going to go away. We're always going to need to take care of our bodies.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe one day there'll be like the little virtual headsets. And, but even still, I still see it being one of those occupations that's always going to be, I would always prefer one-on-one with a person. But.
Right. I do think, we're humans. We're made to move. We're always going to have to move, and there will always be people that need to lose weight or get stronger. But I do see that it probably could get into more online training, which there is a need for. You can reach a lot more people than just in who's within your reach, which I think is kind of where I'm starting to look at, just because I do live in a small town, but there's also thousands of other small towns, and how can I help those people, right? Mm-hmm. The other aspect of it is maybe everyone can do it. It's not hard. It's just a matter of doing it, right? Mm-hmm.
Hi, Dana. This is Karen.
And this is Elizabeth.
And our podcast is called
That's a Thing.
What's our podcast about, Elizabeth?
Our podcast is where me, a young person, explains young person things to my mother, an old.
I am an old. We talk about media culture and pop culture and things that... Internet culture, things that fly under the radar of 40-something moms, but are well known to...
Yeah, the things teens speak and read and understand fluently, and the parents kind of just gloss over because they don't understand, or... Their children don't have the time to painstakingly explain.
So Elizabeth will painstakingly explain to me and then to you. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and other podcatchers, and find us on Twitter at That's a Thing Yeg.
There's comes into play sometimes like medical conditions where you just can't do the full scope that other people can do.
And I mean, everyone is different in what they can do or what they can't do. It doesn't mean that they can't do something. So it's kind of finding the balance, and everyone's life is different in what their priorities are or what their schedule entails, but there's always a way to incorporate movement into your life. And I think the other thing that will come into play a lot more as we go forward in this industry is the mental health aspect, because that is so huge. I've on Twitter and everything now coming into farming is mental health, because there is so many stresses that farmers have in their life. And I think going forward, people hopefully will start to realize the connection between mental and physical health. Like, I know we know that, but how important it is to link the two together a little more closely and realize that you can't really have one without the other.
Yeah, I know for me when I'm having a bad week, it's like I need to go for a run. It's not like I don't want to go for a run.
That's
my brain's telling me that, it's overwhelmed and
Absolutely.
it just needs that rush of blood coursing through my veins.
The happy hormones.
So this is going to vary obviously a lot from city to town to like Toronto versus Edmonton versus Lucky Lake. But what could one expect to earn if they were doing this full time?
Yeah, I think the sky is the limit when it comes to personal training. I mean, obviously, when you start out, it's a lot different. And people charge in so many different ways. I know I'm on a lot of groups and things where I'm trying to learn all the time. And because when I first started, I didn't know either. I was like, I have no idea what to charge for my time. And there's calculations to try to figure that out for each individual person. But I mean, hourly rates, I think, could go from $20 an hour all the way up to $100 an hour. And I mean, if you want to think about the celebrity trainers and what they're making, that's a whole other aspect of...
They, like anybody that falls into the less than 1%, I just like to leave them out of the conversation because...
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I think the sky is the limit. But I mean, people have to think about how much time they want to spend. And because it is a job, for me, I'm self-employed. So I think I can make as much as I want to make, how much time I'm willing to put into that. But yeah, I think you could probably do anywhere from $500 a month if you wanted to go up to $5,000 a month. It just depends on how much time you're willing to put into it. And
I imagine at the very beginning, it's kind of hard too, because you have to build up clientele.
Right.
It's like,
and experiences. Yeah, you can't just go into it thinking you're going to make $5,000 a month, because who's going to pay you that? You have no prior experience. So yeah.
Work-life balance, because we've kind of been chatting about how you can make your own schedule. So, I mean, that's nice. But do you find that it kind of interferes with your home life at all ever, or?
I am lucky because I do work out of my home. So when I go to work, I literally step out into the garage. So if I forget something, I can just come right back in. It's not that big of a deal. So I would say my situation's a little bit different. It is, being that I am my own boss, I guess, it is nice to set my own hours. But at the same time, I have to think of my clients and what hours are they working on. So I do have some people working 9-to-5 jobs. So obviously they can't come see me in the afternoon. So I start my day at 5, and then usually I'm done by early afternoon or somewhere around there, and then with clients. And then that's where my computer work starts, or if I have something with my kid, I can go do that with her or whatever it is. The work-life balance, lots of times Devin will see me on the computer and ask me when I'm going to be done work, but for me it's doing something that I love, so it's a little easier to work extra or work more just because I'm pouring myself into something that I really enjoy.
That's the one hard thing I think with a lot of entrepreneurs is that their time schedule, there's no such thing as a 9-to-5 when you're an entrepreneur. It's like all depending on how much you're putting into it. It could be like, 16-hour days if you're really crazy, but there's also, with your profession at least, I know you have to kind of set boundaries to a certain extent. I know one of my fitness instructors back home, she injured herself. So she's like, I'm having to learn to be like, I want to do every single one of these workouts with you, but I have to know my body's limit, because if I don't take care of my body, this is my profession.
Totally. Yeah. I know I used to do group training, and when I did that, I loved working out with them because it was fun, and I could kind of judge how hard I think that they could be working is how hard I was working. But I mean, I never work out with my personal training clients because I don't think I could physically handle that. Mm-hmm. It would be too much. And I think I preach to my clients that they have to take care of themselves, obviously. So if I didn't do the same and lead by example, they would be like, well, why? You're not doing it, so why am I going to do it?
What do you love about your job?
There's so many things that I really enjoy. I think the biggest thing is watching people succeed and the joy and the happiness that brings them, and the kind of the eye-opening experiences for them that they're like, oh my goodness, I can do this. Because I know everyone sees, oh my God, that other person lost 20 pounds or 10 pounds or whatever it was. In a small town, everyone notices these things. But when they...
Coffee row, it's a thing.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. But when people finally realize that they can do it themselves is the biggest thing. And I'm starting to learn that it's not necessarily the physical things that they can overcome. It's the mental thing. Because once you believe that you can do something, then there's not really much that can stop you.
And the nice thing about working out is that you see the progress, because it's like, okay, you start off with this set of weights, and then you like double that,
totally,
and you like triple it down the road,
it's
and
so
you're
much
just
fun.
like, and then you get to physically see the muscles. It's like, damn, I look good.
Yeah, exactly. I have so many women come in, and it's like, oh, I didn't ever think that I would be using 20-pound dumbbells for upper body day. And I'm like, yeah, of course you can. Sky is the limit.
It's like, here's the 25
yeah.
pounds. No.
They definitely know when I try to sneak in the heavier weights.
What are some of the challenges that you would run into being a personal trainer?
Well, one thing for me that was huge that I didn't see coming at all is definitely the mental aspect of it all. So it's a lot easier, I would say, to overcome some physical things that you want to get over or get stronger or lose some weight or whatever it is. But when I felt like I was turning into like a counselor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So so I guess it was eye-opening for me to come into the fact that, okay, people come here to like escape sometimes and vent, and it was like, okay, this is not just about physical anymore. This is like, and especially if my clients are having a bad day, maybe we can't work them quite as hard because their body is already stressed in a different way. So let's just ease back and let them feel good when they leave. So I think you have to obviously be a people person and be able to kind of read people. And I mean, it's easier for me in that way because I know most of my clients ahead of the time. Not always, but most of the time I would say that I do. But yeah, just the mental awareness and knowing that you can't push somebody to their hardest when they're not having a good day yeah.
I sometimes wonder with massage therapists as well. I was like, they must hear a lot of like, we're humans by nature. We just like, if we've had a bad day, we want to tell someone.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and that's like a hairdresser's chair, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they just need people to vent to, and I really love that they feel safe with me, and it's a safe place where they can let it all out, and then when they leave, hopefully they leave to have a better day. I was also going to say about the challenges is fad diets. Is like the social media and on TV and whatever it is.
There's always one out there.
Yeah. So and I get lots of questions. And for me, I like simple is better for me. It's just eat right and exercise and you'll be fine. Stop trying to, and because everyone is so different. I always say broccoli might be good for me, but broccoli might not be good for you. So even though it's classified as this healthy food, it might not work for you. So you kind of have to feel it out and find what works best for you. And if something like the keto diet works for you, then all for it. But it's not the be all end all. There's going to be takeaways from everything that we can have. It's not one thing is the best thing.
Yeah, and it's really hard too, especially when people are coming to work out. Like if they're not fueling themselves, they can't push themselves as hard as they can. So it's really hard when someone's come and they're like, oh, I ate an apple before I came.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, no, that's not going to work.
What else did you eat?
Please tell me there was like maybe some porridge and something else to go with that. Because you're going to, like, I've seen it in a lot of the classes I go to that people have almost passed out or needed to go to the washroom because they need to puke because their body is just going, no, 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 no.
Yeah. And then sometimes it comes down to, was it the workout? Was it the workout that I did that was too hard, or was it the how I treated my body before I showed up and what all led to that happening? And usually we can figure it out and go from there. It's not always the workout.
Do you remember what you wanted to be growing up in high school?
Yeah, I do. Definitely I do. So when I graduated, I really wanted to, even before I graduated, I really wanted to be a trainer for a professional hockey team. Something along anything in the professional world. So be it baseball or hockey or whatever it was, I thought that would have been so cool to work with a team just because I grew up playing sports. So that would have been ideal for me. And then on the other end of it, I remember going to a career fair in high school and wanting to be an interior designer. So completely opposite. I have no idea how those two connect, but those were the two things that really stood out to me.
Could you tell us what a day at work might look like for you? Because you work from home, so there's obviously advantages to that, but it's work.
Yeah, totally. So I wake up at 4:30 and give myself a little bit of downtime before I start my day. Because I work out in the gym, it was easy for me to get up at 10 to 5 when my first client comes. And that wasn't working quite so well because I was like, holy crap, I got to get dressed fast enough to get out there. And I just wasn't starting my day properly, I would say. So I wake up at 4:30 and I usually have 2 clients, and then I give myself the 7 to 8 o'clock hour because I have a child. So that's her time to hurry her ass up and get her lunch made, get her out the door. And then I have clients usually from 8 o'clock on till early afternoon. And then from there, depending on the day, if I'm spent, I'll go get Devin and we'll hang out, or I go on to computer work and either edit pictures, like you said, with my photography job, or I'm doing programming or anything else business-wise to do with it. I'm not as good as on the paperwork end, but I'm trying. That's kind of where I struggle. And then other than that, I try to be in bed by 9 o'clock just because I have to be up so early.
Yeah, I hear you there. I have a daughter that likes to, yay, let's get up at 5 a.m. No, let's not get up at 5 a.m.
Unless we have a reason to. Why are we doing this?
Well, I guess with you, it's
yeah.
A lot of people, like some people function better in the morning, some people function better in the afternoon. I am more of an afternoon person, but I guess everybody's different.
Yeah, that's when I say that I wake up at 4:30. Lots of people think I'm crazy, but I love mornings, and it's like where I find that I'm most ready to take on the day. And then once I get to the afternoon, I'm like, oh, I need a nap.
Siesta.
Yeah, exactly.
So if there was 3 pieces of advice you could give to someone that was thinking that, maybe this is something they want to do, what would be those 3 things? Like, say someone in other rural community.
Rural area.
Rural areas. Like, my community really needs this and we don't have this.
Right.
What do I need to know to do this myself?
For sure, I would say somebody going into personal training just in general is that you have to be willing to learn. I know a lot of kids coming out of school think, oh, finally I'm done learning and I can just be done my last test and away we go. But I think in life, we learn. If we don't continuously learn, we're not growing. So, and that's really the case with personal training because lots of times things change, and one week this is the best thing for our bodies and then next week it's this. So just always the first thing I guess is just always be willing to learn. Then the other one is kind of what I touched on already, is just the mental aspect of it and knowing that how strongly linked the physical and mental aspect of it are. So yeah, plan all your programs and have like great workouts for them, but also make sure that ask how your clients are doing on a mental capacity and making sure that they're okay in all aspects. And then number 3, I would say, is definitely take care of yourself, because you can't pour from an empty cup. So if we're not taking care of ourselves, how can we try to take care of other people?
Nice. And I definitely think it's nice that you also offer online services as well. So
yeah, the online services, I've kind of gotten away from that a little bit, but that is my end goal. That's where I'm leaning towards going. So I found that it just wasn't working out for me with what I was doing, and I'm trying to get better at it just because it's a foreign thing to me. And I really like having people with me when I'm like putting them through a workout. I love that aspect of it. So online training so I can reach more people is where I'd like to go. And as of right now, it's not there, but it's coming.
Well, sometimes like just people, they're out on their farms and they can't, travel the half hour to come in here and see you. So at least when people make online appointments and they've committed that time and they've spent the money and they know that this is something I have to do, even they can't make the excuse that, well, I can't drive out to gym, I'm too far away.
Right.
At least
the classic rural problem. Too far away from everything.
So going back to advice, say Devin is graduating and you're giving a speech and the life advice that you've learned along the way. What are some of the things that you would tell her in her beautiful grad dress?
Yes. I can only imagine. Yeah, I think one thing that really stood out to me is, and I find it so funny when I'm walking through high schools, because I've coached some volleyball, so I'm back in high school gyms lots, is the posters that you see on the hallway. And they all sat, like, looking back, I just remember reading them when I was in high school, and I'm like, yeah, that's a bunch of BS. It's like, they never really connected with me. And now when I'm in a gym, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is such a great poster. That's awesome. So I think the one thing that I would say is you really can be anything that you want to be, as long as you're willing to put in the time and willing to work for it. Mm-hmm. So even, that's funny that you say Devin, because she's always like, Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to be this. And I think she said last night she was watching hockey and she said a hockey player. I was like, well, that's fine. You can do that, but you have to work really hard to do that.
Really, really, really hard.
Yeah. And I think I went with that just because I remember, and I can't remember who it was, but I just remember being told by somebody that they knew that whatever I put my mind to, that I would go do. And that really stuck with me. I was like, really? I could go do that? Or like it kind of shocked me into thinking like, yeah, I could go do whatever I wanted to. And I think I still think about that to this day is if I'm not doing something the way I think I should be doing it, it's just because I haven't put the effort into it. So go do whatever you want to do as long as you are passionate enough about it to do it and put in the hard work to be able to do it.
Awesome. It's funny because that's why I started this show, because I remember growing up and a lot of people telling me that there was things that I couldn't do. So I was like, no.
Let's see what we can do.
We're going to show you all these amazing examples of people that are just rocking it, because you can do whatever you want to do.
Totally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also something about growing up in a small town is, well, you can't do that because we live out here. You can't do this because it's so far away. And honestly, that is one of the reasons why I didn't go into kinesiology and going into university, is because I was like, well, I can't be a hockey trainer in small town Sask. They're not going to pay me to do that. They'll let me do it, but they're not going to pay me to do that. So I kind of put those ideas on the side burner. And then eventually I came back to it and I was like, well, if I'm not going to train a hockey team, I can at least train the community that I'm in and help them.
Mm-hmm. So where can we find you online?
I would say the biggest place to find me is Facebook. I'm the most active on there, of course, with my 5-Minute Fridays. Also Twitter at Rural Fitness SK. And I have a website, ruralfit.ca.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Rural Fitness on Facebook as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure. We all have our favorite social media platforms where it's easier to get a hold of us on one than the other. So.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I've really been enjoying this, and it's always fun coming up for, I call it Farmcation 2018.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a big vacation for you.
Oh, yeah. It's a vacation being away from the daughter right now, that's for sure.
No, it was awesome. I love talking about this stuff.
Oh, and as usual, we will be linking to how to find Michaela online. So if you're like me and you forget things and when you don't write them down, then that's okay. You just check out the show notes and we will link you up with Michaela. You're having a conversation and there's a really good point that comes up, but you've kind of like it's gone past. Well, the amazing part about podcasting is that I can just put things in at the very end. And both me and Michaela had some afterthoughts, and I really wanted to share them with you. Michaela messaged me afterwards and she's like, well, let's not discount that 1%. Maybe we're not there yet, but if we work hard one day, pretty much the sky is the limit. And even though I know being famous is definitely, or even being known past my own circles, is not something I find desirable, that's not to say that you might not want to be a celebrity one day, or you might not want to have your own successful YouTube channel, or be on a sitcom. I don't know. Those are your goals, and if that's something you want, do it. And if you ever need like a personal cheerleader and you need someone to go team you, go team you. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at CareerPod. Those are probably the easiest ways to get a hold of me. The thought that I had afterwards was that I was afraid that I might be misleading you into believing that farmers only work 2 seasons of the year, and that is totally not true. If you want to know just how much work is involved with being a farmer, go talk to one. It is stressful at times, financially and mentally, and I really hope this is a career path I can delve more into specifically, but you'll probably just hear tidbits from time here and there from us, because we're part-time farmers. We head out in the spring and then the fall. My sister-in-law designed this beautiful t-shirt, and on it says, "Thank a farmer," and hopefully I can get some pictures on Instagram one of these days for you guys, but I think it's so important because if it weren't for farmers, we wouldn't have food on our plate. So if you know a farmer, go out and say thank you. And now time for some shout-outs. I'm so excited. I'm finally starting to get reviews on iTunes. I know I'm a bit of a dork, but I love it. Thank you, Lady Shit Podcast. And also thank you to Seen and Heard YEG. And I'm not gonna lie, there's 2 on there. Twiggerific, that might be my better half. And Don Francisco 83, that was actually me at the start of the podcast. I was just trying to make sure that the review thing was working. Yeah, no, and now I don't know how to delete it, so oopsie.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Till we meet again, stay passionately curious.